Good evening, everyone. I have the absolute privilege of leading a conversation in just a few moments with three legends: Jackie Joyner-Kerse, Nadia Comaneci, and the record-setting coach Geno Auriemma. And before I invite our panelists up to join me, I wanted to say a few words about how our honoree will frame and shape our discussion. And so I'll start with a little story about my dad, who passed away recently. My dad was Australian, so I think I could stop right there and you'd know how this is going to go. My dad was also a professional athlete. He played rugby in his youth for Queensland, Australia. And if you were to ask him what his sport was, he would tell you tennis. Now, I am pretty certain that the men's senior league at the Smithtown Landing Country Club in Smithtown, Long Island did not have shout out to Long Island, but not an elevated level of play, but they tried. But the player that he loved was Rod Laver. I heard about Rod Laver all the time while I was growing up, my entire childhood. And Rod Laver was my dad's hero, clearly in part because he's an Aussie, but also because his reverence, and truly that's the right word, his reverence for Rod was based on fully understanding the excellence of the man, certainly on the court, but also, and maybe even more importantly, as a person. Rod Laver embodies absolutely everything that is great about the sport of tennis. And so I am honored to lead the conversation as we celebrate him and his achievements. So if our panelists would come up and join me up here on the stage, I'll give you a short introduction. 9-time Olympic medalist and Romanian Olympic star Nadia Comaneci joins us tonight. Team USA track and field great and 6-time Olympic medalist Jackie Joyner-Kerse is with us. And Geno Auriemma, a longtime coach of the record-setting University of Connecticut women's basketball team. Welcome to all of you. So this is definitely a group that needs no introduction, but you know what? I'm going to give you short introductions. We'll start way on the end there. Nadia Comaneci was 14 years old when she got a perfect 10 at the 1976 Olympic Games. And by the end of those Olympics, she'd have 7 perfect 10s, 3 gold medals, 1 bronze, 1 silver, and would be known to the world. The 1980 Olympic Games earned her more medals, more renown, and a place in the International Olympic Hall of Fame. Welcome.
Thank you.
To her right is Jackie Joyner-Kerse, who was named the greatest female athlete of the 20th century by Sports Illustrated.
Thank
A
you.
6-time Olympic medalist, including 3 Olympic golds. Jackie dominated, I'm not even sure dominated is enough of a right word, dominated the heptathlon and the long jump over her career, and she is in the National Track and Field Hall of Fame. Welcome, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Geno Auriemma is in his 35th season as the head coach of the University of Connecticut women's basketball team. I'm just gonna tick off some numbers for everybody. 11 NCAA championships, 20 Final Fours, 6 perfect seasons, 49 conference championships. He coached the women's U.S. national team as well, Team USA, to Olympic gold twice, and he's in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame and the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Welcome to you. So all of you have had a chance to go and see the tennis today, and as we sit here and think about what Rod Laver accomplished some 50 years ago, and you watch today the very high level of play, how do you see what he was able to do that has frankly not been matched since?
First of all, good evening, and I personally am honored to be here tonight to celebrate Rod 50th. In a world that we tend to go forward too fast, and we tend to forget what happened 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and I realized that what a big impact he has had in sports, in tennis, what he did in the court, off the court, that a lot of people just still get inspired what he had accomplished. And I would like to congratulate for what you have done and you still do. I personally, this is my 43rd anniversary. This is my first Perfect 10. It doesn't seem that's been such a long time ago. But sometimes when I travel and I work with the little kids, I meet the parents who were around when I was competing. And I understand how important it is to talk about history and longevity and to celebrate, as you do every year, the greats of the sports, because the generation of today and the future generation, they need to know the history and who started everything many, many years ago.
I would like to add that with what you saw, maybe we weren't able to see because during the time when Rod was doing what he was doing, it made appear to be easy. And anything that appears to be easy by the sight is extremely difficult. And sometimes we lose sight of that, the work that went into that accomplishment. And that's why it's been very hard to not be able to replicate or duplicate today. So I say congratulations to you.
Yeah, I walked up here with these two. I felt like the hood ornament of a Rolls Royce. You know? You know, we're here talking about people who actually did it, and you know, I'm here about because I tell people what to do, and these people actually did it. I met Stan Smith today, and it was like the greatest thrill of my life. I told him, I said, I played your racket, and I wore your shoe, and I actually won with it. And I told my son, and my son said, yeah, I need a size 13. It's what they're talking about, in that what we remember today is not necessarily what made them who they were. And, you know, one of the great definitions that I've always heard is that the greatest athletes, they make things that are hard look easy, but they make things that are easy look easy. And in today's world, you know, how hard you make the easy things look gets you on YouTube. And the thing about watching Rod Laver play was he made very difficult shots look really easy. But all the easy shots, he did it with the grace and the finesse of a champion. And today's match is another perfect example of how difficult it is to win at this level. And to be able to do it 7 years apart, and to be able to do it at the highest level, the more it isn't done, the more incredible, when we look back, the achievement really was. And I salute you, sir.
Yes.
I think why all of you are so interesting is that you've been able to not only achieve incredible success, but it's the part about sustaining it for a long time. And I'm curious to dig into that a little bit. And maybe, Nadia, you could start for me. What do you think it is that separates an athlete who's excellent from one who's excellent over a very long period of time, who's able to sustain their success, which is far more rare?
Oh, well, I think that being excellent, it's, of course, after you work so many years, you can get to excellence. But the longevity to be the best for many years, it's so difficult to sustain, because there are others who come behind you, and you always have to be a little ahead. And it's the difference between being good and being great. It's all about details. And from my experience, I'm not sure why I did that, but that's what I've learned from my family. When I was practicing in a gym and my coaches were telling me, do 10 repetitions, I did 11. I don't know why I did 11. I could have done 9. But I think that in time, that decision to do just a little more because I was challenging myself, how about if I can do 12? I think that my bag got fuller in many years, and that put me from a good level to an excellent level. And when I competed first, as you mentioned earlier, I was 14, very young, but I had 8 years of gymnastics in my pocket. So I didn't consider myself young. I thought, I know this sport. I've done it for 8 years. And, you know, like today, we watched the final, and for me, every competition was the same, because you just put there what you prepare, and don't try to be better just because it's the Olympics. Because every time you try to do a little more, then you train, then you get in trouble. So if you get your mindset that, okay, this is the Olympics, but I want to put my best routine that I had in training Tuesday, that I will be happy with that.
Jackie, I'm curious if you saw yourself as, I'm excellent, but in order to reach greatness, I have to sustain it. Was that something that drove you? Did it inspire you? Did you think about it all the time or think about it never?
It wasn't that I didn't think about it. I started running track at the age of 9, and I wasn't one of the best girls, and I finished last in my first competition, and I said to myself, if I could improve 1/10 of a second, if I'm running, or 1/2 of an inch, if I'm jumping, that meant the work that I was doing was paying off. But I realized I would receive 4th through 9th was always on the grass, and you got all different color ribbons, and 1, 2, 3 was on the podium. And I had to figure out how to get on the podium. And throughout my career, the most important thing was preparation and consistency. And if I can be consistent and be in the top 3, then maybe one day I would make an Olympic team, or I'd be on somebody's team, but I wouldn't be on the grass anymore. I'd be getting some hardware.
Geno, as a coach, would you rather have someone who is very innately talented, but isn't necessarily inspired to work hard, or somebody who's a really hard worker, but just lacks that excellent innate talent? What's easier or harder to coach?
I think coaches who coach those kinds of players that you're describing are soon to be ex-coaches. Because neither of them are going to get you to where you want to go. I think if you have an incredible athlete with the God-given ability to accomplish great things and doesn't have the heart for it and isn't willing to put the time and the effort and the repetitions, they're always going to come up short, and you're always going to be judged on your ability that as a coach you couldn't get the most out of them. If you take an athlete who works and they've got drive and they've got the heart and they put the time in and they're incredibly committed, they're only going to be able to get you so far. And you're always going to be left off the podium. So the secret to a long, successful life as a coach is to recruit players like these two and Rod, players that are talented, they're committed, they are willing to be coached. One of the things that's very difficult today is it's hard to coach young players today, even though they have 1 million coaches, including their parents. So they have a trainer for everything, but then when you start coaching them, they really don't want to be coached. But the great ones, they come in and they say, Coach, help me become great. And that, to me, is what separates the ones who reach the level that these people have reached.
When did you two know you were great? Was there a day where you're like, dang, I'm great, I'm not just good, I have now a stack of Olympic medals, and I've been doing this for a long, I mean, truly, was there a moment when you realized that you were achieving things that nobody else was able to achieve, that you were in a class by yourselves?
Can I go first on this one? Only because it's different for me than it is for you guys. You guys will have a lot more to say about this than I will. It wasn't until we had gotten to a certain number of championships. I don't know whether it was 10, 9, 10, or 11. I don't know which one it was. But I remember when I was we were coaching a game, and someone said something to me afterwards, and he said, "Were you worried that you would lose that game?" And I said, actually, no, I wasn't. I have 11 national championships. I don't give a damn what they say. Who's going to question me? They're going to blame my players. That's when I knew I made it.
When you're in an individual sport, it doesn't quite work like that. Was there a moment when you knew that you had transcended just being really, really good and talented to sort of this new level?
For me, as long as I was in the game, I never thought of myself as being great, because that meant that I didn't have to work as hard. And my attitude was always that no one could outwork me. So I will always motivate myself and look at my coach and listen to my coach, who happened to be my husband, but never did I believe that I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish and become complacent, because I always knew there was someone nipping at my heels. Because when I was a young girl, when I was in that position, I wanted that record too. And now that I hold the record, that there's someone striving to get the record. And they weren't going to get the record with me not being 100% ready to go, not thinking about what the newspaper clippings are saying, but the work that I did. No one could outwork me. I'm going to put in the work. So I knew every time I stepped on that track, I was going to give it my best, and my best was going to supersede whatever I had thought I could do.
No, when I was about 11 or 12, I heard people around talking that they were talking about me, that I may be great at what I do, but I thought they are saying that just to make me feel good. So only after I competed in Olympics in '76, and I had no idea that I didn't go there to make history. I just went to do whatever I learned to do in the gym. And of course, as usually, I don't watch the scoreboard. I was happy with the routine that I did. And just because I heard a lot of noise in the arena, I turned my head, and when I turn around, I see 1.00 as a score. So I look at my teammates, and I was like, did I do that bad? Because 1 is really bad score. And
they had no ability to give a 10.
Yeah, the scoreboard was not prepared for a 10. The people who created the scoreboard, they were told by the International Gymnastics Federation that nobody is going to score a 10, so don't bother to make one more space for a decimal or put one more light. So I ended up with 1.00, which it was a 10, actually, at the end. But going back to Romania, when I landed in the airport, I went out with my medals, because we were told to wear the medals when we go out. And I saw a mass of people at the airport, about 10,000 people. And I went back to the plane because I got scared. I didn't know what happened. And I said to myself, I've done those routines for the last 3-4 years, and nobody came to wait for me at the airport before. So I had no idea that I made history until I got back, and I realized that actually I've done something important, and at the end of the day, the 10 became a 1.00 story.
For all of you, I'm curious, what's the role of passion in greatness? Is it essential? Do you have to be passionate? Were there points in your careers where you worried you were losing passion for your sport?
The passion and the love has to be there all the time. Without that, I don't think you go anywhere too far. I mean, when you feel like the first thing you want to do when you wake up is go to the gym or see how you can do this skill a little better or how you can improve, that means you have the love and the passion for what you do.
I agree with Nadia. You know, I work 8 hours every day trying to compete, to run, get ready for an Olympic Games that is a 4-year cycle, and to run a race in 12 seconds. So the passion is definitely there every morning, the aches and the pains. You don't think about those things because it's a part of the preparation to get you ready. And by the time you go to perform, you execute. So for me, the love always had to be there, because once the love was no longer there, then for me it was time to leave the sport.
Can a coach drive passion in somebody? Can you help them get it, or do they have to come fully formed with that as a young person to you?
I think you can help bring it out. You can either make playing more fun, more rewarding, make it more enjoyable for that athlete to want to succeed, or you can make it miserable and they don't want to come to practice. They don't want to train. And to me, that is the worst thing that a coach can do, is take the heart out of a champion, because you don't even know that you're doing it. And that player, that competitor, has lost their desire to play because of what you've negatively put into them. But I think in other sports, like ours, you get a chance to compete a lot. In their sport, it comes once every 4 years. They ran in a lot of meets. They competed in a lot of events, as Rod did, all around the world. But the only thing people cared about, the 4 majors, the Olympics. And you get one shot at those. So if you don't have the passion to work and to prepare during all those other events leading up to those big events, which a lot of people want to win these big events, but then the small events, they treat them like they're small events, and they never get to where they want to go. And that's the difference between these people.
Is maintaining excellence and sustaining excellence mostly physical or mostly mental? That wasn't an option.
Jackie was voted the greatest female athlete of the 20th century.
Yeah.
No one can ever be the first to do that. And Nadia got a perfect 10. So whoever got a 10 after that, they can't say, wow, that was amazing. And she was sitting home going, I did that. And what Rod did, no one's been able to do. So once you do something like that, it puts you at a certain level. And people describe athletes a lot of different ways. And most of the time they talk about, well, they can run, they can jump, they can do these physical things. I suspect that what the greatness of these two and Rod is, they had the ability to do all those things physically, but great athletes have great minds. They have great eyes, they have great hands, they see things, they feel things, they think things that normal human beings cannot. And sometimes we're confusing athletes by, that guy is a great athlete, that woman's a great athlete. Why? Because physically they can do these things. But what makes them legends is what they can do with their mind, and I think that's what separates them.
Do you two think about your legacies? Do you think about your legacy ever? I mean,
Think about your legacy.
Not every day.
Every other day.
I'm still amazed after so many years that I meet people and they tell me where they were exactly where they were when they were watching the Olympics when I competed. And I'm thinking, really? Because I didn't think that at the time. And if each of us, we got to inspire 1, 2, 3, 5 people who then passed along to their kids, who, you know, I barely pass black and white TV, and I work with a lot of little ones, and they know about me because of the parents, and the parents who were motivated to do something in their life. A lot of them started to play sports. A lot of them started to do gymnastics. So if I'm thinking that if I was able to motivate someone to do something great in their life, I think that's my legacy is right there.
And I would add that for me, it's not like I thought about my legacy, but my commitment to my community has always been first and foremost. And what I love about, you know, Rob and being able to celebrate these 50 years with him is that I really strive to be a great human being, because I think if you're a great person, you'll do great things in life.
Well, we think about your legacies all the time, those of us who are nowhere near accomplishing what you have been able to do. And I am so pleased to have had this opportunity to talk to the three of you and chat with our audience as well. Thank you so much, Nadia Comaneci, Jackie Joyner-Kerse, Geno Auriemma. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, our inspiration for really exhibiting excellence sustained over a long period of time, Rod Laver. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.